You're listening to the Jonesy and Amanda podcast.
Let's talk about Neanderthals. Remember the chart that you saw when you were at school of the ascent of man? Is that what it was?
Yep.
There'd be a hunched over chimpanzee, then gradually standing slightly more upright until eventually you saw the Homo sapien.
And there was Cro-Magnon man.
Cro-Magnon man and the Homo sapien. The Neanderthal was somewhere in the middle of all that. And Neanderthal was a slight, heavy-browed, crouched-over, hairy creature.
Yep.
What they are saying now, I heard an interesting podcast, this is a New York Times did a podcast on this, is that when they found the skeleton of the Neanderthal and then sort of put it together shonkily, they kind of didn't put it together correctly, then just drew it with hair on it, and that's the image we've had of the Neanderthal, or Neanderthal as some people say. But apparently the one skeleton they had, they've discovered now, was an old one that had osteoarthritis. So to be like taking someone who is suffering terribly from arthritis and all stooped and saying that's what all human beings look like.
Oh.
So we have attributed a lot of imagery to Neanderthal that isn't necessarily true.
Right. He just hadn't been drinking the A2 milk.
And we take your tablets, for God's sake. Take your calcium.
Has he been down to Chemist Warehouse?
But what they're saying now is that other studies have also shown that Neanderthals were, as they say here, robust, clever. They used tools.
Well, they invented fire, didn't
They
they?
may have been the first ones to harness fire. There's evidence, I don't know how they found this evidence, that maybe they kissed. Written in the tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G, that they held funerals for each other, which shows that they had empathy and family community relations with, an emotional kind of component to it. So not the caveman stereotype that we've all thought. So they're going back now and looking at that. And, of course, the way the chain goes is that where most of us would have maybe up to 2%, maybe more than that, of Neanderthal genes, DNA. So at some point we splintered off. The Homo sapiens went towards Africa, I think, and the Neanderthals maybe went through Asia. But having said that, over the intervening years, there was commingling, which is why we share some DNA.
Oh.
But let's talk about what they're constantly finding out about the Neanderthals. So they're not dumb, they're not meat, they're not all that stuff that we've attributed them to them.
Sure.
But they have been able to study the voice characteristics of the Neanderthal, how the voice box would work, how the bones in the throat would work, how their vocalizations would sound.
Mm-hmm.
This is a historian, and to help them recreate the sound of the Neanderthal, we have a voice actor called Elliot. Imagine getting this call from your agent. Hey,
Right.
I know you've done a lot of great voiceover work. How do you feel about learning to recreate the voice of a
I'm in a
Neanderthal?
voiceover agency, so what they ring up, hey, kid, we've got a big gig for you.
Maybe.
Right.
How would you feel afterwards? Anyway, this is Elliot being taken through the steps of how to speak like a Neanderthal.
And most of all, a huge nasal cavity.
Let's just add a bit of nasal now. 1, 2, 3. Now, the other thing that would be happening, which would actually increase that quality, is a very heavy skull that seems to pull down into the throat there. Now, add to that the fact that they had a fantastic chest, which is a support system of breath, which can produce enormous chest resonance and tremendous power. So I imagine that they wouldn't have subtle sounds. It would be loud, or very, very loud. And we can try and get that by, I'm now going to engage Elliot by push into me. This is actually getting him right into his body. Now speak. 1, 2, 3. Now let's make a sound. Just let's make a huge R. And again.
He's nailed that.
Now he's off to do a Macca's ad.
Elliot's one step away from home and away. Thank you. That was very good.
Interesting, isn't it?